Welcome to the AI Corner. I'm your host, Mike Bailey, here to spotlight the people moving New Zealand's AI future forward. In today's episode, we're speaking with Matt Browning. Matt is the co-CEO of Incredible, an award-winning Kiwi startup helping SMBs unlock more time through custom no-code apps and AI automation. Fresh off winning the 2024 Rotorua Tech Innovation Award, Matt's here to share how his organisation sees the growth of AI in New Zealand and abroad. Welcome to the pod, Matt.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
Pleasure. Before we talk about Incredible, tell us about your journey into the world of AI.
Yeah, so previously before Incredible, I had two entities. One was called Triple Scoop, and the one before that was called Salt and Tonic. And the team at Salt and Tonic were super smart. Software developers working in full stack, so working in code. And one moment, there's an agency, a New Zealand agency called Dot, based in New York. They reached out and said, it's COVID times. We're looking to build a platform for Inc., which is, inc.com. They were doing instead of normally a conference of the fastest 5,000 companies, they need to do that on Zoom. And they're looking to build this whole big platform, talking about what they could do in like a virtual conference, and could us as a team build an AI photo booth? And I was like, oh, absolutely not. Artificial intelligence? Are you joking? Like, that's the world of myths and legends. Like, we can't do that. We're a little small boutique agency in Rotorua. And I spoke to my other business partner at the time, and he said, well, just because we haven't doesn't mean we can't. And so, yeah, that team of ninjas built this most amazing AI photo booth that got deployed into the software that was used by Inc. and Inc. 5000 conference. And that project, the whole virtual conference, actually went up for a Webby Award up against Adobe. So we kind of dabbled with AI back then, and there were lots of, like, before ChatGPT, there was lots of playing with GPTs and different models, different projects. So there's kind of been this awareness of AI and GPTs and LLMs and different things that people have been playing with in the past. And then when ChatGPT came out, that was the big changer. That's what made it accessible. And so I've been playing with ChatGPT and other LLMs for quite a while, but more so in actual workflows and streamlines. Like Incredible has been set up to deal with automations and artificial intelligence because of the explosion, I guess, of how accessible it's become, not just the software developers.
Wow. So did you spin off from your previous agency into Incredible, or has that initial agency just morphed into the same business? How does
No,
that
the
work?
original one, Salt and Tonic, is still around. They renamed to Deliver. They're around. I'm not sure what they deal with, but they were a full stack agency, and I sold that to then go out and freelance. And I guess that's my journey into Incredible. I set off and set up a new company called Triple Scoop, which was supposed to be an incubation studio to say, hey, if you're a business and you're going through an accelerator or an incubator, I will help create your software. Because so many people would go through an accelerator. It's like, let's say it's 12-week accelerator. They'd start with an initial pitch or a hypothesis, and then by the end of it, they might not have actually got anywhere. But what we know is you can make software so quickly now. So I was saying, build your MVP in 1 to 2 weeks, get that out to market, test it, and iterate through the accelerator incubator. So by the time you come to pitch day, you're talking to investors with an actual product and proven track record with market. Like, are people willing to buy this? If so, at what price points? What are you learning from adoption? And so that was my pitch with Triple Scoop. And so I went through the Creative HQ Accelerator. We went through like trying different things. And it just turns out that startups had a higher expectation of what the software needed to do and lower budget. And so the tech is there for startups. And I still have this huge passion to help startups get up and running, get to market. It just happens that there's also this huge market of businesses who haven't adopted or moved quickly. So yeah, Triple Scoop was birthed in that realm of helping create businesses. It just turned out that so many people came to us saying, I'm not going to learn. Can you just make this for me? And so instead, it became another software agency, but working in low code space. Glide originally came out saying, build an app for free within 5 minutes from Google Sheets. That was their byline on the website. And I came across them over an Easter weekend in 2019, thinking, oh my gosh, like it would take us 6 months to make an app. Now I can make it for free in 5 minutes. Are you joking? From a Google Sheet, so you just like create a Google Sheet of different tables and like your big layout. So I've been enamored from the early days of my early days, quote unquote, in 2019. And the platform just continued to grow. They pivoted away from helping startups with their pricing model, but they've always been a low code tool to allow people to build software, whatever like need you're looking to address with a solution in a low code tool. We used to get frustrated with a little bit because there are constraints with a low code tool. Any low code tool is going to have constraints that you don't get in full code. But what they've done with the AI is they've enabled heaps and heaps of different features. So one is you have a vibe coding tool up front. So before you even get underway with any database, with any interface or components on the front end, you can just type in what you want and it'll go and build it for you. To me, that's wild. The second thing is they've added components. So you might have a full app and then you say, I just need this type of chart, or I need a slider. And if Glide doesn't already have it, you can just say what you want and it builds it for you within the existing design structure of Glide, which you've already set up to match your brand. So you can do that by text. Like you can be walking down the street and say, I need a component that does this, talks to your database and integrates in your full workflows. We haven't seen any other low-code tool do that. It's unbelievable. And they've also got AI happening in the database. So you can be saying things like, let's say you're feeding emails in. Emails are messy, they're unstructured, but you might want things to happen on each email that comes in. So create a task that comes out of it, create I don't know, something structured, a date that this is due by, and then send it off to another platform, like off to MailChimp or off to your calendar software. So those three parts are just mind-blowing. And then they've added in automations on top of that with AI included. So to have AI embedded in a low-code tool, meaning you can build apps super quickly, 5 minutes, they've actually pulled that off the website. Because in theory, it's true. But the thing is, now you want to make sure that your app's structured well. You scope out all the possible like fishhooks and different things of making sure you're building well still. But we are building software in rapid time if we need to, which is fantastic. But we also do bigger projects to make sure that we're addressing all of our customers' concerns. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting time. And Glide's an unbelievable tool. Most people won't have heard of Glide, but for us, it's like our tool of choice if we can.
Awesome. Love to hear it. It sounds like it's incredibly versatile, and with some of those AI features, you can really kind of stretch the platform to its limits, but get what you need out of it as well, which is pretty exciting to hear.
Well,
And
can I just say on that? So we actually have this phrase of like so many businesses have tools that don't really fit them. And from our point of view, we have this line saying, you can go to the op shop or a thrift store and you can buy a suit and wear it to your uncle's wedding. You can do that. It's not really going to fit, you know? You can. Maybe some people won't notice, but you can also get a tailored suit, which is going to fit you much better. And we see so many businesses with software that doesn't really fit. They have tools left, right, and center. They've got software off the shelf that doesn't really fit. It's got things they have to do as manual workarounds. They've got spreadsheets galore. Like the more businesses we talk to, the more we realize, man, people are kind of just making things work. And in this new world of software development, you can actually have tailored software solutions that fit your business exactly as you need it, rather than with some bloated mess or having to kind of do a workaround. You can actually tailor something exactly as you need. So forget about the op shop suit.
of the analogy. I know Incredible runs AI workshops across New Zealand. Would love your kind of feedback from boots on the ground. What is the common light bulb moment people have when they hear your team talking about AI? Like, what is the unlock in those discussions?
From our point of view, so we do two types of workshops. One is we do a full, like a 3 hour deep dive into a business's tools and say, what are we going to actually create for you? Like, come with a hypothesis, come with a repeatable task that you do on a regular basis, and let's get rid of that. Like, we love automating admin. The other thing we do is a high level exposure. What can AI do? And so we do those sort of like 80 to 100 people at a time. And there might be 40 to 50 different businesses there. And they're exciting too. So they're exciting for different reasons. The light bulb moment that happens in the big workshops, people don't realize what AI can do. And so we showcase our agents. We do a lot of things with voice calling. We do things with the agents that just happen in workflow around email, admin, report generation, and people kind of haven't seen that. And to me, that's wild. But what we love is that people are just waking up to agents and they can see I don't have to open up a new tab over here and create, chatgpt.com, go into there and start typing away. I also don't have to open up Zero over here, log in, two-factor authentication, go to contacts, find the contact, add this. It's like these things now all happen and they're all connected. I think a lot of New Zealand businesses haven't stayed up to date with automations in general, and they're just hearing about AI in theory and playing with it to create poems or proposals or cover letters, but it's all happening separately and siloed. And so the big light bulb moment that happens for people is connecting it all together. Seeing like a phone agent where like we have teams who might have 40 technicians. They all go out from their site to different customer sites and come back to the depot. In the past, they would have gone back and done reports at their desk. They might have done a voice note or some handwritten notes out on site. When they get back to the head office, they might, type that up on the computer. They might do other things. We now have them calling from their ute a landline, a New Zealand landline that has ChatGPT on the other end of it, that listens to their whole call and does all these actions, like books a calendar, creates reports, sends emails. By the time they got back to the office, they don't have to do that report, or everything's been drafted, ready for them to review and send. And when you show that alone, people go, that's ChatGPT. And we're going, yeah, you can connect it into all your different existing tools rather than another thing on the side. So that's the big light bulb moment we see.
That's awesome. And I think, as you say, a lot of us live in the world of consuming these use cases and seeing them on YouTube or whatever social media channel all the time. And you definitely take it for granted that others aren't exposed to what can be done, even if they aren't super sophisticated use cases, right? And are you seeing in particular any specific industries that are adopting AI more so than others as part of your client base, or even net new prospects in pipeline?
I think the one for us is we're seeing lawyers in healthcare not adopting it. They're the ones that are very resistant, and for obvious reasons, right? We're talking about privacy and talking about data, confidential data. Every other industry, we see huge interest and adoption. We see huge interest in both the legal and the healthcare sectors, but very, very cautious, very unwilling to jump into something. Every other industry, we deal with their admin and they are just super excited. We usually start with one project and then clients go, can we add this project? Can we add this project? Because people realize they've got so much mess that AI can come and clean up. And maybe it doesn't do 100% of the job, but it might do 80%. And that gets them, like we say, you can free up 10 hours a week per employee per week. So, yeah, you start with a task that you do on a repeating basis. How do we streamline that? How do we automate that? So, yeah, every industry for us is like fascinated by it at the moment.
And over, I think over half of your revenue comes from overseas. Do you see different speeds of adoption in the US compared to New Zealand? I would imagine you would, but are you seeing the same types of pushbacks in the same industries in the US as you might locally?
Yeah, so our American clients very fast. They will usually book a meeting with us and then sign a contract within 3 to 5 days. It's a fast turnaround. New Zealand is at the moment about 2 to 6 weeks. And that could be down to a whole bunch of factors. But there was a report that I can send you for the show notes. It came out of Stanford, I believe, around adoption of AI. New Zealand's second from the bottom. So South Africa was below us, but we were the second from the bottom above below all these other countries. And it wasn't just adoption, it was also things like R&D spend, um, government regulation, awareness. There are kind of quite a few different factors at play. But we were shocked by that to see us come out at second from the bottom. But the more workshops we do, the more we realize that there's so much fear from businesses of like, what does this mean? Maybe it's just even lack of knowledge or knowing who to talk to. So what we're trying to do is identify different champions in businesses and say, we can't get to every employee, but how do we find the right people who are tech advanced or tech interested to then pick up and learn for the organization? And I think that's a really interesting play, but we'd love to find ways for other employees to pick that up because our New Zealand clients are much slower at, I guess, wider tech knowledge, not just AI, and that flows through as you go through all the AI enablement. So yeah, there's a big piece here. I guess the frustrating thing is having Callahan wind up or be merged. It's like case in point of going, we're going the wrong way. You look at the UK, the UK is actually putting money and funding out for businesses, like small to medium businesses, to get AI enabled. And we're not, So I think there's a huge play there. And we would love to see New Zealanders get more up to speed.
Yeah, totally agree. There's so much more we should be doing at a community, a business, and a government level, right? And again, you've got that unique perspective that you're based in New Zealand, you're selling primarily into overseas markets, North America, which is the golden goose for so many businesses.
Mhm.
Like what can people learn from what you're doing in terms of growing in the AI no code space to compete globally that perhaps local organizations aren't focused on it, and not to give away your secrets, right? But like what else could you share with others about getting out there and sort of finding new markets where there is some really fast and good adoption around this type of technology?
We see a lot of people playing in the B2C space, so trying to create a new app for the consumers. And I think what New Zealanders miss is the scale out in the world. When you look at consumers, yes, there are a lot of consumers, but just in American business alone, there are so many businesses. And what we're finding is even if they look good and shiny from the outside, they often still have clunky tools on the inside. So I think that's a big thing. I think the other thing is New Zealanders are very versatile. So Americans often get into specialist roles, whereas New Zealanders are used to being generalists. And so we pick things up. We often hear from our UK people, like they love Kiwis because we have this can-do attitude. Rather than looking at barriers or resistance, like excuses, New Zealanders often go, oh, yeah, I can try that. Oh, I'll have a bit of play with that. We don't mind taking a risk or being willing or trying something. So we see that as being a huge advantage for Kiwis. And then often what happens is Kiwis will apply that to Kiwis. When we realize actually that's a competitive advantage we can apply in other areas. Americans are often so afraid of litigation. The UK is so afraid of like changing the status quo. So I think there's kind of, I mean, this is obviously stereotypes, but I think there's this thing of like Kiwis are willing and are able to try things. So we want Kiwis to think bigger. Don't just look to Aussie. Like we're super grateful. We've got clients across Europe. We've got a client in South Africa. We've got clients across North America. We feel very fortunate that that's the case. But people look at us like, I don't know, like we've just won the lotto, or like we've won one of those game shows, you know, like it's a rare beast. Who wants to be a millionaire? You know, you're like, how did you do it? It's like, well, it's actually very possible to meet people to get connected now. Yeah, I think LinkedIn has this ability to not just be posting about what you're up to, but also be targeting people and saying, hey, I really want to meet someone who's operating in this space. Who can I find who operates in this space, and who do I know who knows how to talk to those people? Well, maybe I can use that as a way to say, like it's a party. How
Mm.
can I reach out to them and say, I wanted to go talk to that person? Does anyone know that person? Yeah, I mean, we talk about social media being a party all the time. If you're just talking about yourself, it's a pretty boring party.
Yeah.
No one really wants to talk to you, you know. But if you're engaged in conversation, if you're meeting other people, that's an interesting party, you know. And so we would want to use social media for that good and like reaching out to people that we might be interested in. So if someone says, hey, how do you find people in America? We often get them coming to us based on our networks. But there's every reason that we are now reaching out to other people to say, how do we meet people in New York and how do we meet people in Chicago? So that's on our strategy.
Good on
Not
you.
giving away secrets.
Yeah. No, it's just it's tried and true methodology, right? Who do you know and who knows you, right? Just leveraging the power of your network. But I think you raised a really interesting point around,
They need to play.
as you say, just being curious about what can the tools enable. And the media headlines certainly don't help. There's a lot of fear mongering out there, and I'm not saying that AI won't take jobs. It absolutely will take some jobs or parts of some jobs, but the claims that it will replace all humans or even a huge chunk of the workforce overnight, I believe they create panic rather than driving progress, if anything, right? And so you've got these tech executives who push this job loss narrative. We saw it recently from Anthropic because, and I believe that fear spreads, fear generates headlines, fear generates clicks, which drives product adoption because people rush to learn and try the tools so they're not left behind. So it's, in fact, sometimes a marketing flywheel, which is disguised as a labor crisis. But obviously, there are still some risks around AI. I'm not detracting from that. But in the immediate term, the AI kind of adoption risk of driving jobs away from people is slow and uneven, right? I think there's a better way to look at it. Businesses should be looking at AI as a force multiplier rather than a replacement. If you've got people who can deliver 10x more output because they're more valuable, you're not going to want to lose that person. That person is more valuable to you. So you would then invest more in AI literacy. You'll focus on retaining and developing those people, which would lead to growth rather than layoffs, in my mind, because you're building yourself an unstoppable team. So I think you're right. There's a lot of kind of fear out there, but that fear doesn't always feel founded. It always feels like we're reading a headline because the media hasn't critiqued what someone has said out in the open in big tech.
I feel like the podcast needs to flip around. And you got to be the same, Mike. I'm going to start asking you some questions. What's going on here?
Just on my soapbox. But yeah,
No, but I agree. So there's 2 points to that. One is we talk about the hype cycle in every presentation we do. And the hype cycle is a report that comes out from Gartner every July, August-ish. It'll be really interesting to see what comes out this July, August. Um, I came across that back in 2015 in the world of virtual reality. And we used to make virtual reality. We still do make virtual reality, not under Incredible, but under another company I'm on board for, Dot Dot. And so virtual reality came out and people said, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing technology. You won't travel again. You won't go to the pub again. You definitely won't go to the mall again. Like you can just put on this headset and you can go into any virtual mall. You can use a controller to click through. You can view things. You can buy, send it to your email address. There's no need for a mall. And like 277 in Newmarket, just I can't remember how much they spent, but some significant money they spent over the COVID period. That's not true, right? People are going to malls, people are traveling, they are going to the pub. So that is that hype around virtuality was not true. And so that's when I came across the Gartner hype cycle. Every new technology goes through this peak where people get super, super excited about its expectation. And then it comes crashing down, not to zero, but down. Because people realize, oh, you know what? Actually, not doing what everyone said it was going to do. And then it reaches what they call the plateau of productivity, where it's not as amazing as the hype and it's not at zero, but we realize what it's good for, what it's not good for. And so we've seen it for virtual reality. We saw it for augmented reality. We saw it for NFTs. It was just, we have seen it. And you can go back and look for all the previous years' hype cycles. It's amazing tracking it. And so when ChatGPT came out, actually, so ChatGPT came out in November 2022. Before that, generative AI was on the rise. And that's because, like my previous agency, we were playing with those sort of tools, playing with GPTs, not with chat, but with the GPTs. And so you're having a play with those LLMs and getting different data back. It was on the rise. Of course, after ChatGPT came out, it was at the peak of expectations. Last year's hype cycle, Gen AI was coming down the graph. And we see that over and over because people play with it and go, it doesn't really sound like me. It kind of sounds American or generic, or it's got the M dash, or whatever you want to put in there. There are reasons where people are trying it and it's not having the same impact that you thought it was going to have. So we've seen it from Gen AI, but now what's going up on the rise, and it came out on last year's hype cycle, was agents or agentic AI or autonomous agents. That's on the rise. That'll be at the peak this August. I almost guarantee it. Will it be on the decline next year? Probably. If not next year, the year before, or the year later. Because people are realizing, man, there's all this hype, but it's not actually living up to that. But it will have some impact, but maybe not what everyone's hyping at the beginning. So we say to people, yes, there's a lot of hype. Let's just have the hype simmer, let it settle, and then figure out what these tools are good for, what they're not good for. Is Gen AI amazing? Yes, no question about it. You know what I mean? But the hype that came out in 2022 was unreal, So that's the first thing. The second thing that you pointed on was people with AI. We did a series for Westpac Smarts, and the Westpac rep, Gillian Tan, said, AI is not going to take your job, but it will take it to the next level. And it was a bit of a cheesy line that I think ChatGPT helped it with, but it was an amazing insight to be like, that's true, actually. We see that with companies right now, that people who are upskilling themselves with AI are having huge access to other knowledge they wouldn't have had before. So you're getting this one person who's doing their job more efficiently and accessing more knowledge. Why wouldn't you want to try and keep them? Why wouldn't you want to try and upskill them and help them train other people in the organization? We say that AI is your most amazing assistant that you can't afford to employ. You have this huge amount of knowledge that's at your fingertips. It's now at your phone level too. People say you can just call this up and have it right there, guiding you through things, accessing all sorts of knowledge, processing information. I mean, it's a whole new world and it's amazing. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. I think we're on the same page. Very well covered. Now, I
What question
suppose
should I ask you, Mike? Need to get you back on your soapbox.
I suppose I'd be curious just to before we start to close up, you're seeing the development and adoption of AI across American businesses, potentially some Australian businesses, and then in New Zealand. Where do you feel that we fall behind in New Zealand? And we've talked about the fair piece, but what else do you think needs to happen in the industry or the market or from the government to drive this forward?
Well, what was interesting for us was during COVID times, and the government put out different grants for businesses to endure COVID. That was a noticed period of time. Like people understood that COVID was a disruptor. Things were different. You couldn't just do business as you would normally do. So the different grants that the government released for that, they haven't done that for AI. Even though there's all this talk about disruption, there's all this talk about efficiency, I would love to see the government do that in the same sort of, maybe not scale, but the same way that they're doing that, making funds accessible for business to upskill. We see people who come to our workshops get this new enlightenment about what's possible, but they've got the ability to then go and put that into play. They don't need to rely on us. They just need some guiding and some steering. We would love that to be more accessible for businesses. The other thing is it's time, right? Like so many businesses get into the same, like, here's how we do our weeks. And stepping away from that can be like a barrier to people. Oh my gosh, I've already got so much to do. Why would I step away to learn? But I think this is the time to be learning. This is the time to be figuring out what's happening because we've been left behind as a country. Let's not make sure that every business gets left behind. How do we upskill people, get them ready for this?
Fascinating points, especially the first one, and especially the second point there. We talk about this a lot at work, and speaking to other people I engage with is, I understand you don't have time at work to focus on AI, but this is the type of technology and skill set that you need to just find the time to work on and learn. And whether that be that extra hour a day or some time on the weekend, it's only going to go towards future-proofing your career and making yourself more indispensable to any business that you go and work for, right? So I think it's an incredible message that people need to hear and take on board.
What are you seeing, Mike, from an adoption by New Zealand businesses?
Slow. Yeah. So I think even businesses that are digital native and those that are seen to be on the cutting edge still have a resistance or reticence to get involved and to know where to begin. What I'm seeing is a lot of businesses aren't treating this like a normal transformation. I think there's some silver bullet or special approach you need to apply to driving change management for a technology. At the end of the day, AI is just technology. We
Mhm.
should think about it from the same lens of what is the business problem or bottleneck that we're trying to remove from the business? How do we then begin to scope out what that problem is? What is an MVP solution to get there? How do we roll it out and get training on board and get people on this train? And what is the governance model or operating model to support that? It's no different to any other project that people would run within their business, but for some reason we throw our hands in the air and do things quite differently. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's an echoed perspective that you've seen from businesses as well.
No, it's good take. I really appreciate that. I feel like one of the things we're a bit frustrated by is that ChatGPT spoiled people. So every other tool similar to it. So ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, you name it, Claude, Grok, people could just type whatever they want and would deal with them, you know? And so that's great. There are these other AI tools, like 11 Labs for phone calling is unreal, but it's not chat. And maybe it becomes chat in the future, but right now it's still requiring you to do a prompt and go back and refine and refine and refine. People haven't been used to that. So yeah, that adoption is slow because people kind of go and go, ah, I tried it. Doesn't really do it. Rather than taking the time to learn about how to do better prompting or to have someone guide them onto how to do their prompt well, or to go themselves, go back and refine. So yeah, we see that as well.
You're exactly right. I mean, as we all know, AI today is the worst it'll ever be, but you have to get people at the right time because there are so many people who turn away at the first attempt because they don't actually know how to use the tool, even though the barrier to entry isn't that high. It's just taking that time to understand how should I actually engage with this thing in whatever way that it makes sense to get the best result from what I'm after.
Yeah.
But Matt, it's been super interesting to talk to you and to get your perspective. Would love to go through the 5 question quick fire round if you're up for it.
Hit me. Good
Awesome.
luck. Quick fire.
Here we go. ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini?
ChatGPT for us. We
All right,
use it all, but ChatGPT is our go-to.
bread and butter. The most overhyped AI trend right now for you.
We call them penguins on rockets. So people creating images that aren't part of their normal work. It's they do them for fun, but pure novelty.
Would you say the most underhyped trend is voice? Because I've seen voice take off in Northern Hemisphere, but barely talked about down here. Would you echo that?
100%. Yep.
Open sourced models or closed proprietary AI models? Where do you sit?
Closed, actually. Yeah, from a safety point of view. We heard of stories of teenage boys in America taking photo books, like yearbook photos of girls, and turning them to nudes. And yeah, you can do that with open source models. And the schools haven't caught up from a policy point of view, and the law hasn't caught up from the legalities. So yeah, there's this middle ground where there's lots of pain from parents actually going, this is not acceptable, and no one's doing anything about it. And so closed models we think will have safeguards and boundaries, and yeah, good boundaries for people to not do nefarious things. Whereas the open source, I mean, it's a wild, wild west out there.
Sensible. I like it. And I suppose follow-on question to that, and I ask other people typically is, would you rather be building in the US or Europe on that basis of safety?
Well, good question. US probably just because it's faster adoption of innovation, rather than GDPR.
Absolutely. And one New Zealand company quietly doing great AI work apart from yourselves.
Apart from us, yeah, thank you. We are quite quiet. We don't talk about ourselves that much. We no, I think the one that comes to mind for me is Tella. Yeah, Tella. They're a video software, but video editing. And people often know Loom. Like nearly every client we onboard knows Loom. The AI capabilities inside Tella are just unreal. And I think where Grant is heading from a like the future of the platform will be really one to watch, not just in video. I think he's yeah got a really smart brain on his shoulders and brain on his shoulders, smart head on his shoulders. But yeah, he's I think he's got a really like clear future focused mentality. Pretty exciting one to watch.
Awesome. We'll have to check them out for sure. And lastly, what's your number one recommendation for people getting started in AI beyond just start using the tool?
Well, I got asked this in a workshop last week, and they said, we don't even know how to use these tools. I said, well, ask AI to show you how. So get started by playing, and if you feel like you don't know how, like ask it how it can help you. If you are in a role, say, what can you do to teach me in this role, and what can you do for me? And use it like an assistant. So yeah.
Excellent. Super simple. Love it. We'll end on that. So thank you to Matt for joining us today. And to our listeners, please subscribe to the channel for weekly episodes and to hear more from the people building New Zealand's AI future. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to the AI Corner.
Thanks so much, mate.